Hey guys, Omni here. We have our first trailer for the Star Wars game show that's going to be coming to Disney+. This is called Star Wars Jedi Temple Challenge, and it's going to be hosted by Ahmed. And this show is going to center around kids coming in to compete and participate in some trials as Padawans to earn the right to move on to become Jedi Knights. I really like the concept of it and the idea of it, but there's some questions that I have with how Disney's handled some of these more meta, more kind of entertainment piece structures, much like with Galaxy's Edge. And now I am assuming it will apply to this show as where they place in and actually fit into the lore and canon. So I'm going to talk about that once we watch the trailer for this. So let's go ahead and dive into this right now. Here we go.
For generations, the Jedi Order have been the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy.
That voice, man, I love it.
Padawan teams must endure 3 challenging rounds of Jedi trials to become Jedi Knights. From the strength trials on a distant world,
keep going,
to the knowledge trials aboard a Jedi Star Cruiser. Your answer is correct.
Yes.
Only one team will have.
Dude, if I was still a kid, this would be a blast.
Face the mysteries inside.
Here's a circle plug.
And prove their bravery to become Jedi Knights.
You got this. I believe in you. Go,
There's a lot of varying challenges in this.
Will the Padawans be tempted by the dark side? Or keep their minds focused on the light side of the Force?
Oh, that's neat.
May the Force be with you always.
Now, there's only one thing for you to do.
This is my favorite part.
Punch it!
Strength, knowledge, bravery.
Don't give up!
Trust in the Force.
By the right of the Council, by the will of the Force,
Yeah!
it's time to face your Jedi Temple Challenge.
He's got that game show announcer voice down there towards the end of that. It looks like a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of good production that's put into it too. Like, this looks like a thing that I think kids would really want to participate in and do. It gives me some Legends of the Hidden Temple vibes, because that was huge when I was growing up, and I loved watching that show. I was always jealous to not be one of the kids to participate, and I feel like you might get something quite like this too, and I feel like it might have a pretty strong draw to it. Again, I'm really happy and excited for Ahmed to come into it and be the host of this show, and not just being Jar Jar. And even though his relationship with Jar Jar has had its mixed sides, and not just with the character itself, but with the character, him, and the fandom, it's been through some valleys and some peaks for sure, but I think he's finally, in the past couple of years, definitely been kind of rising above it all, and I think the fandom has, as a general whole, been a lot more accepting, and you kind of coming back off of a lot of the harshness that had been thrown his way, because let's see, he's definitely gone through some stuff and dealt with some stuff, some of the darkest sides of the Star Wars fandom, given a lot of the reception and backlash to his portrayal and character in the prequels as Jar Jar Binks. So I'm glad to see him coming out on top. He's been a beacon of positivity and just a warm spot in the Star Wars family for the past couple of years, and for a long time in general. I mean, for kids, Jar Jar left an impression, and it's a lot of the older generation fans of Star Wars, a lot of people in my age range as well, kind of, that really did not appreciate the character. But I'm glad to see it coming full circle with him hosting this game show for kids and taking place, and not just as Jar Jar, but as a Jedi Master. It's a fun little thing, full circle event for him, and I'm really excited for that aspect of this as well. Now, for the puzzling question that I had as far as Disney's concern with this, because what Disney has been doing is pretty much anything Star Wars related since the Disney acquisition of the Lucasfilm Star Wars brand, was that everything they put out is considered in some way, shape, or form part of the lore and part of the canon. Even Galaxy's Edge, the theme park at Disney, is a canonical location within the Star Wars galaxy. It has its own lore. There are things specifically at the park itself that are canon, things that happen at the park are canon. The park has its own book. So even something like that, which is this interactive, thematic, like meta world kind of thing you interact with, it technically, as Disney is placing it, part of the canon. So in that way, is this going to be technically canon? Is there some way they're going to try to work this into the canon of how the Jedi Temple operates? In that vein, where this lines up in the canon, in the timeline, will have varying context. Because if you're a Star Wars fan and you're coming into this and you're just like, okay, that's cool. Okay, this is something they're doing. This is like some version of these Jedi trials. Is this in the High Republic where, you know, things are a lot more open? The Jedi are ruling the galaxy. There's not all this this turmoil in the galaxy that everybody has to worry about. In that way, I could see this being a fun little way for them to progress it and expand it in that vein. If it's not that, the only other two options you really have is throwing it into the Old Republic, even farther back, or is this going to be in lines with what we have seen in the films? And if so, you got two places this is going to be put. Right before Revenge of the Sith, in which case any of these kids, depending on when this took place, either died immediately to Anakin and the clone army on Order 66, or became Jedi Knights and became Jedi Masters and were then later slaughtered by Anakin and the clones for Order 66. And then the flip on that, I was like, this could be post Return of the Jedi. And then Ben Solo destroys and burns the Jedi Temple and disbands it, and it becomes nothing. So it has to... If Disney does what Disney has been doing and incorporating this somehow into the canon, the only way it does not turn morbid for these kids, in the eyes of the story, at least behind it, is that it would have to be before the prequels and well distanced away from that, or you're like, oh wow, good seeing that kid. They won the challenge. They're going to be a Jedi Knight. Anakin is going to stab you. It's just a little funny when you think about it like that, with how Disney has been handling the lore and the canon by incorporating all of their Star Wars branded things into the lore and the canon. That being said, I think the more tasteful way to do it would be, if they do incorporate the canon, the best thing to do is distance it completely from the Skywalker saga so that you don't have to think about that. If they don't, and they exclude it from the canon, it's just this meta experience for us, this game show theme, which is more in line with what we're used to with game shows in general, then it's fine. Do the theme, do the gimmick, the fun stuff for the kids, and let it be that. If they try to make this canon and into it, I mean, good luck. You got few options to make it not about kids being murdered when they grow up. So that's my thoughts on it. Anyway, guys, what are your thoughts and feelings on this? I'm excited for Ahmed Best to come into this and be, you know, this coming to the forefront in this way in the Star Wars family and the Star Wars community. Even if it's not geared towards the whole fandom, even if it's just geared for kids, I think that's where he's been most focused, even from his interests into now. Like I said, it's kind of a full circle thing. Even within the canon itself with what happened to Jar Jar, it's kind of, even though it's a backhanded way they implemented it into the canon, was still full circle, coming back to the kids. So I think that I can appreciate that. So I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and feelings on this. Do you think this is a show about child murder? Do you think they'll keep it in the canon like they have with Galaxy's Edge? Or do you think they'll keep it out and be its own thing? I'm curious to see what happens with that and what they try to do with this. But that's my thoughts on it. Let's carry on the conversation after the video down in the comments. And I thank you guys for tuning in. But yeah, that's all I've got for today. We'll catch you guys next time in the next video. And as always, may the Force be with you always. Take care, everybody.